Mario, how are you today? Come on in, take a seat. How can I help you?
I want to discuss today's lesson.
Okay, what in particular did you want to discuss?
You mentioned something about risks and how this experiment could fail. Then in today's lecture, you stated that political tribalism was one of the greatest threats to our democracy.
I'm glad you were listening. Yes, political tribalism is one of the greatest threats to our nation. And in the lecture, we also discussed why the vote matters, especially when dealing with political tribalism.
Dude, what the flip is tribalism? I'm very confused on how that's a threat. Isn't China and Russia our greatest threat?
Well, Russia and China are threats, but political tribalism threatens the very core of our nation. It strikes at the heart of the vote.
How can I do that?
Well, first, let's define political tribalism. Can you remember the definition?
Well, isn't it when a political party and its political base over-identifies with certain ideologies without compromise and views any other oppositions as the enemy?
That was sort of perfect there, Mario. Great. Additionally, political tribalism amplifies people's emotions over a particular idea in order to eliminate civil discourse with the sole purpose of sowing division within the nation.
Oh, dude, I think I'm gonna need some protein after that sick pump.
I got you.
Oh, yeah, here you go, dude.
Some good old-fashioned smooth peanut butter.
Smooth? What, are you a smoothie or something?
Yeah, man, of course.
Are you crazy? I've known you for 20 years, and I'm just finding out that you're a smoothie?
What are you, a crunchy or something?
Yeah, and a proud crunch I am.
Oh my god. A proud crunch, dude. When did this happen?
Ever since our founding father, Roosevelt, in 1932, brought the crunch to life.
1932? You weren't even born then.
Man still gets my vote. He was ahead of his time.
Bruh, times have changed, man. It's not about that crunchy lifestyle anymore.
I like my risky, crunchy lifestyle.
You don't even have a choice. At least with me, I can throw a couple of peanuts on there, give it that extra crunch.
I could always pick the peanuts out of my peanut butter and make it all smooth. But honestly, what's the point in smooth?
Okay, the crunch is obviously getting to you.
And your smooth lifestyle detests me.
You guys are idiots. Nutella's the answer.
I like my Nutella like I like my peanut butter.
How's that?
Crunchy.
Wow, that doesn't sound very good. And I feel what you're saying. It does seem we're becoming a nation more and more divided than ever. And this is due to political tribalism, you said?
Yes, one of the goals of political tribalism is to split apart communities along political and social ideologies.
Split apart communities? How so?
Well, for example, a political party takes a stance on a very controversial topic, let's say abortion, and uses it like a wedge to divide people into groups, let's say pro-choice versus pro-life.
Wow, when you said abortion, I instantly got what you're saying on how political tribalism divides our communities. Are there any other topics?
You tell me, Mario, what do you see in here on campus?
I really feel there are certain topics I would consider taboo. As soon as you mention anything about those topics, people just blow up.
Can you tell me the topics?
I really feel uncomfortable with that. I trust your professor, but the cancel culture at school is not so.
Mario, I get it. It is amazing that you feel that you do not have a voice on campus.
I hate this political tribal stuff. I didn't realize until now how these topics threaten our freedom of speech.
It is what the political parties want. They want to divide us, and then they position themselves on one side of the issue or the other.
Why is that?
Because then people will vote for that candidate or political party simply on that issue alone. Everything else becomes irrelevant to the voter. Politicians don't want voters to act civil and discuss things in a calm manner. This is how they control the vote and the voter and get you to join their tribe.
Hi, I'm Claire, your TA on the street, and I'm here to interview some college kids. I'm out here at Fullerton College with
Don, Francis, Pedro Enriquez.
Kylie.
Julia.
Enrico Pedres.
We're gonna ask them a few questions. My first question is, to your best extent, could you define what political tribalism is? It's okay if not.
No.
Okay.
I feel like it's like the political parties are kind of getting sectioned and like just on that side of the street, this side of the street. So yeah, just like the unity with different parts of politics.
Very good. Okay. You have anything to add?
I'd say could possibly be simply political factions in a sense, where it's two different groups, kind of like how there's Democrat versus Republican, but since in the tribal form, maybe.
Honestly, I'm not too informed on that. Could you explain it to me?
Political tribalism is something that politicians use to kind of gain votes and also turn voters against each other. So not only get people to vote for them, but get people to dislike the other party, no matter what.
So it's basically polarization of two parties, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I do kind of have an idea of that. Well, like if you have like two parties and like there's not gonna be and no middle ground, then eventually both parties are gonna eventually get more and more radical on each side, right? So that's how like extremist ideologies start to happen, and then it could start from something simple as a democratic system to like a socialist or even communist system. I'm not saying that's what's happening right now. I'm just saying that's a potential future, you know, and that's why, like, for like how I said earlier, I'm gonna be doing a research paper on political polarization. I think that as a country, maybe we should have some sort of third party to like have some sort of neutral ground. Even though like there's like this big thing about it's all black and white, no gray. Sometimes you need a gray to like stabilize the black and white, you know?
X. Okay. My next question is, would you say your vote would be swayed in any way by climate change? Like, would you vote with climate change in mind, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the big issue right now. That's like, I'd love to hear like what their opinions on it is and like what they plan to do with it and like.
Yeah, definitely.
Me personally, it probably depend on who's like running and all like the primaries and what they stand for and their intentions. So that definitely all plays a factor with my decisions coming up. But I wouldn't say it wouldn't be very detrimental, but yeah, definitely will play a factor depending on the intentions with each party.
Okay. You?
Okay. I'd say, would it really make a difference? It depends on what said person would do with that information. So I'd say so, yeah.
It wouldn't be one of my main factors to focus on, because I feel like there are a lot of internal things that the country needs to be changed, like homelessness, our decline in like, what's the word? Like money values going down and all that, and like there's just too much stuff going on here internally that I don't think we should be focusing global, because why would we focus on the world if we can't fix ourselves first? That's kind of like double standards in my opinion.
And then our last question is, let's say if you did vote for someone thinking that they will help climate change, because that's what they ran on. They're like, we're gonna fix climate change, blah, blah, blah. Do you think the person elected would actually help climate change in the long run?
I'd say from past elections, Not necessarily, not too much hope, but there's always a sliver of hope for sure. So yeah, I'd say yeah.
Definitely. Right.
Yeah, I definitely hope that they stand on their words and like the actions they say they're going to take, because that's going to make you like just, I guess, have more of a trust and like just not overthinking about just depending on them and are they going to do actually what they say they're going to do, or should I just hope for the best but prepare for the worst type thing. So more for preparation as well. It's like knowing how you can move off like just your vote and stuff just later down the road. But yeah.
Thanks.
I feel like it's rare for like, I feel like when there's like a election, people tend to be like, oh, I'm gonna do all these great things, and then like you never really see like the follow through of it. And yeah, so I feel like probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like they just want like the majority votes and to like promise all these things, but it's like once they get into that seat, they're like, oh, we're just so like stressed with everything else we have to do. Like all this is going on. We might get to it, we might not, and it's just like frustrating that they don't like seem to care too much about it.
Yeah. So my example was climate change.
Yeah.
Or your example is homelessness. If you were to base your vote off of that, do you think the person elected, if they were elected, the person who you voted for would actually make a difference in, I guess, homelessness in your...
For me, yes, because not a lot of people do this anymore, but when you're voting for candidates, you have to research them to know what their values are and what they want to change and how reliable they are to make that change. So as long as you know those things, you should have a good feeling that your candidate's going to do what they got to do.
Nice. That was awesome.
You know, political tribalism has been a part of our American history since its founding. When the colonists declared independence due to political differences with the crown, it divided communities and families, you know, colonists versus loyalists.
So, like, the founding fathers and the Revolutionary War were results of tribalism?
Yes, the Revolutionary War was due to political disputes, causing a divided nation to ultimately go to war.
That is wild. But are you also saying that if political tribalism goes too far, it will lead to civil unrest and ultimately war?
Exactly. If we become so divided that we perceive everything as us versus them, then the outcome of civil unrest and civil war become probable realities.
Besides the Revolutionary War, are there any more examples?
Well, the Civil War was another American war that set tribe against tribe, setting the North against the South.
Yeah, I'm really starting to get the dangers of political tribalism. So how can we recognize political tribalism?
Well, justification is probably the clearest of signs. This is when members of the tribe believe their actions are justified. For example, the KKK felt that they were in the right and that their actions, no matter how disgusting, were justified by what they deemed a moral imperative.
That's crazy. What are other signs?
When tribe members focus solely on winning and dominating the opposition versus having a civil discourse.
Oh yeah, just like I see on campus. Are any more examples?
Well, in the late 50s, during the era of Joe McCarthy, it was a time of American tyranny in which our government leaders felt they were in the right to root out communist sympathizers. And in so doing, they denied American citizens basic liberties by labeling them enemies of the state. Now, let's check in with Orson, our TA Time correspondent.
Good evening, Professor, and boy, do we have a special guest in store for you today. Joe McCarthy sits in the Senate right behind me as we're speaking. But, you know, I wasn't really able to get into the building, so I'm going to try and talk to his assistant who's taking a stroll right now just to see, you know, what he's all about.
Whoa, wow. Who are you?
I'm the Time correspondent.
What the hell's a Time correspondent?
Well, I'm just here to ask some questions about Joe McCarthy.
Joe McCarthy is a noble man.
Great. Well, is Miss McCarthy weaponizing the government?
What the damn hell kind of question is that? Joe McCarthy is protecting the United States at all costs to weed out these communist sympathizers.
Why is it called the Red Scare?
Routing out communism is our top priority, even if it means limiting freedom of speech and freedom of the press. in order to remove these comrades.
So you're doing this to the detriment of our civil liberties?
No, no, no. Joe McCarthy is a noble man. What are you, a commie?
No, I'm the Time correspondent.
Well, I'll be damned. You're a comrade.
Well, damn, Professor, I can't get anything out of this guy. We're having a bit of a dilemma, you know?
Security, remove this man from the premises!
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, my God! You are limiting my civil liberties and my freedom of speech. Sounds kind of communistic to me.
We must protect our civil liberties at all costs from people such as yourself, you Bolshevik.
Oh, do you get the irony? Oh my God. All right, Professor, back to you, man. Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Orson, are you okay?
Give me liberty or give me death.
Holy cow, that was crazy. Our government was weaponized and used against the very citizens it's supposed to represent. I thought our inalienable rights were protected us from this ever happening.
Well, in the end, we hope as citizens that our desire for freedom overcomes the tyranny that political tribalism can unleash.
So the threat you're really talking about comes from our own government?
Correct. During COVID, when everyone's emotions were amplified with the threat of death from a virus, our government used that fear to force the shutdown of the nation, forced us to wear masks, and then censored and suppressed any dissent in newspapers, network news channels, and even all over the social media. It is not to say that it wasn't for the safety of our families, communities, and nation, but the government did it without permitting any public discourse and completely undermined our inalienable rights, specifically our freedom of speech.
Yeah, I remember the news saying we needed to shut down for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and eventually became almost 2 years.
That was an awful time. So many people were disenfranchised by our government. School kids suffered, small businesses were destroyed, and so many lives completely disrupted.
Yeah, I remember feeling ashamed into getting the jab. I took the dose, wore the masks, and in order to go back to school, I felt I had no choice.
Well, that is a sense of being bullied and forced to do something, which is another sign of political tribalism. It is a feeling of being dominated.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt.
And our only true power to keep our government in check is through the vote. It is why the vote matters so much.
And it's so cool. I never thought about my vote being my way of fighting back against the machine. Can political tribalism be eliminated?
No, political tribalism has been a part of our nation's history since the day of Lexington and Concord, when the shot heard around the world was fired.
So what you're saying here is our founding fathers knew about this particular threat. They also understood that our government and political system was the biggest threat to our freedoms?
Absolutely. Our founding fathers understood that political tribalism is the greatest threat to our nation. They knew they had to have a constitution that could peacefully address its destructive nature. This is why they gave the people the power of the vote. They believed the solution lied with us, the American voter.
And this is why the vote matters?
This is exactly why the vote matters. Perfect. Thank you, Mario. You know, I'm so glad you're getting all this, but you know, I have a class that I have to get to, so I will let myself out. You need to hang around, that's fine. I gotta go. All right, thank you, Mario.
Now I understand why the vote matters. Now I see why political tribalism is a threat and how to identify it. I now understand I must look at the candidates each individually rather through political tribalism, and that is why the vote matters.